I walked into the kitchen after work, and there he was, Rick, standing by the fridge like he owned the place, cracking open a beer, acting like he hadn't ghosted this family for the past 4 years. My name's Brian. I'm 25. I live in Tacoma, Washington. I've been staying with my parents ever since I finished trade school. I work full-time at an auto shop in town, pay rent, cover my own food, and fix stuff around the house when it breaks. It's not glamorous, but it's smart. I'm saving up for my own place. That was the plan anyway. Then Rick showed up. Rick's my older brother, 32, if anyone's still counting. He's the type who always had an excuse. He dropped out of college, bailed on 2 jobs, and last I heard, was living with some girl down in Oregon. Now suddenly, he's back with a duffel bag, a car seat, and a story. Jenna left me, he said, not even looking at me. Took off. I'm raising Daisy on my own now. Daisy's his daughter, 2 years old, curly hair, barely talks yet. Cute kid. Not her fault her dad's a screw-up. Before I could even react, my mom jumped into action. Oh honey, of course you can stay here. We'll make it work. Dad nodded like it was already decided. Family takes care of family. By the next day, they'd cleared out the guest room for him and set up a damn playpen in the living room. Bottles, bibs, diapers, baby stuff everywhere. Like we were running a daycare. I offered to help carry the crib in from his car, and Mom beamed like I was some saint. But I wasn't being nice. I was taking inventory, because I already knew where this was going. Rick acted all humble at first. Just need a couple weeks to get my head straight. Sure. He dropped that same line after every failed job, every blown chance. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. A week in, it was obvious this wasn't temporary. Rick hadn't applied anywhere. He barely left the house. And my parents, God, they were tiptoeing around him like he was made of glass. Every time Daisy cried, Mom jumped up like it was her kid. Dad called Rick brave. I was busting my ass at work every day, and suddenly, I'm stepping over toys in the hallway just to get to the shower. I told myself it was fine, temporary, just a bump in the road. But that was before my mom said, Brian, maybe you could help a little more. Just for now. It's a lot with the baby. I didn't say anything, just nodded and walked out to the garage. I slammed the door hard behind me. I stayed out in the garage for an hour, working on a busted pressure washer that wasn't even ours, just to clear my head. By the time I came back in, Daisy was screaming, and Rick was sitting on the couch with his feet up, scrolling through his phone. Where's Mom? I asked. Rick didn't look up. Taking a nap. I ended up heating a bottle and calming the kid down myself. That's when it started. Little things. The next morning, I was heading to work when Mom caught me at the door. Brian, could you pick up some diapers if you pass the store? We're running low. It was a 3-minute stop, so I said fine. No big deal. Then came the hey, can you watch her for 10 minutes while I make a call? And Rick's trying to fill out applications. Could you keep her occupied? One night, I came home to find a crib half assembled in the garage. Mom met me with a hopeful smile. You're so good at these things. Would you mind putting it together? I was dog-tired, grease all over my hands, stomach growling, but I nodded and got to work. I didn't do it for Rick. I did it because it was easier than arguing. At dinner that week, Rick bragged about updating his resume like he'd just come back from war. I asked if he'd gotten out to any interviews. He shrugged and said, everything's remote now. He was wearing gym shorts and hadn't shaved in days. I didn't say anything. I just kept eating. But I noticed he never left the house, never offered to cook, never picked up after Daisy. The only time he moved fast was when he heard the microwave beep. One night around 10, I walked past the kitchen and caught my parents whispering. Mom was folding laundry, and Dad had that tired look he gets when something's bugging him. He's trying, Mom said. He just needs a little time. He's got a baby now, Dad said. We'll all have to pitch in. That line, we'll all have to pitch in, hit me like a punch. We, not he, not Rick needs to step up. Not let's figure this out as a family. No, just we. That's when the whole thing clicked for me. They weren't just helping him. They were gearing up to sacrifice me for him. Again, before I start yelling, I pull back. I tell myself I'm overreacting. I remind myself it's temporary. That's what I keep saying, right? But then Saturday rolls around. I sleep in a bit, finally, after a brutal week. I come out to grab coffee, and there's Daisy on the couch with a sippy cup and cartoons playing. Rick is nowhere. Where's Rick? I ask Mom. He had a phone call, she says. He said you wouldn't mind watching her for a bit. He said that. She gives me a soft smile, like I'm being unreasonable, just until he's done. I sit down next to Daisy and stare at the TV. 30 minutes go by, then an hour. No sign of Rick. Finally, I stand up and head down the hall. His door's cracked. I push it open. He's laying in bed, laptop open, earbuds in, laughing at some video. You done with your call? I ask. He pulls one bud out and looks at me like I'm the problem. I'm researching companies. What? You dumped your kid on me again without asking. That's why. Chill out, man. It's not like she's hard to watch. She likes you. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back, grabbed my keys, and went for a drive. Didn't say where I was going, just had to leave. Because I knew right then, I was being set up. They were warming me up, testing the waters, seeing how much I'd tolerate. And every time I didn't push back, it gave them permission to keep going. Sunday night, Mom made meatloaf. That was the first red flag. She only made meatloaf when she wanted everyone in the same room at the same time. The table was already set when I got home. Rick was in my seat, again, with Daisy in a booster chair, flicking peas off her plate. Mom was smiling too much. Dad had shaved and was wearing a button-up, which he hadn't done since Easter. The whole vibe was off. I sat down across from Rick, looked at the food, and waited for the ambush. Everyone acted normal at first. Too normal. Mom asked about my day. Dad complimented the shop for keeping me so busy. Rick said something lame about the Seahawks. Daisy babbled and threw a spoon. We all laughed too hard at nothing. Midway through the meal, right as I took a bite, Mom cleared her throat. So, we've been thinking about how to make things easier for everyone. My stomach tightened. I put my fork down. Dad nodded, all casual, especially with how helpful you've been lately. It really means a lot. Then Mom hit me with it. We were wondering if you could officially be Rick's go-to babysitter. You're already so good with Daisy, and you're here anyway. There it was, just like that. Slipped in like it was no big deal. I leaned back in my chair. Wait, you want me to babysit full-time now? Not full-time, Mom said quickly. Just when Rick has interviews or appointments or errands. He doesn't go anywhere. I snapped. He hasn't left the house in 2 weeks. Rick set his fork down loud. Jesus, man. I'm trying, all right? You think raising a kid solo is easy. You're not raising her solo. I shot back. You've got a full staff here. Dad held up a hand. Let's keep it respectful. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Respectful? You want me to work 10 hours at the shop and then come home and babysit for free? No one said for free. Mom said carefully. We're just saying, as a family. There it is. I cut in. The family speech. You mean you want me to do your job because you're too scared to hold Rick accountable? Dad's face darkened. You're starting to sound ungrateful. That word always set me off. Ungrateful for what? Paying rent? Fixing the dryer last month? Buying groceries that Rick eats without asking? You're blowing this way out of proportion, Mom said. We just need support. We all do. It's not fair to expect Rick to do this alone. I turned to Rick. You got anything to say? We're just gonna let them throw me under the bus for your mess. He shrugged. You don't get how hard it is, man. You've got it easy. My jaw clenched so hard I felt it in my temples. Easy? I bust my ass every day while you sit on yours. And now I'm supposed to be your nanny? We're not making demands, Dad said, even though we all knew he was lying. Good, I said, pushing my chair back. Because I'm not doing it. Then maybe it's time to reevaluate the rent, Dad said, suddenly real calm. With costs going up and all. There it was. The threat. I looked around the table. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Rick looked smug. Daisy was chewing on her spoon like none of this mattered. I stood up. I see how it is. I didn't wait for anyone to respond. I walked straight to my room, slammed the door, and locked it. I didn't come out of my room that night. I skipped breakfast the next morning too. When I finally left for work, no one said a word. No, have a good day. No, drive safe. Just silence and tension thick enough to chew through. By the third day, it was a pattern. Mom only spoke to me in little guilt bombs. Some people don't understand how hard this is, she muttered while folding towels right outside my door. Dad did the same. This whole house runs better when everyone pitches in. Too bad not everyone sees that. I started eating at the shop, made sure I got home late. When I did walk in, Rick was always in the same spot, sprawled out on the couch, TV blaring, his kids' toys spread across the living room like landmines. My tools from the garage had somehow ended up under the coffee table. My mail was shoved behind a diaper bag. Daisy's snack wrappers were stuck between the couch cushions. One night, I opened the fridge and lost it. The six-pack I'd bought after a long week was gone. So was the chicken I'd marinated the night before. Even my peanut butter had a spoon stuck in it, just left there like it was a damn community jar. I walked straight to the living room. Rick, you eat my food. He didn't even look up. What food? The chicken, the beers, my lunch stuff, all of it's gone. He paused the TV. Finally. Oh, yeah, I had some. Figured you wouldn't mind. You figured? Man, I bought that with my money. I don't touch your stuff. He laughed. You mean my daughter's formula? Her string cheese? Go ahead. Be my guest. I'm serious, Rick. Don't touch my food again. He hit play like I hadn't spoken. Cool talk, bro. I stood there for a few seconds, just watching him zone out like none of this mattered. Then I went to my room and slammed the door. Again. The next morning, I was halfway out the door when Mom stepped in front of me. You need to apologize. I blinked. For what? For how you spoke to your brother. That was hostile, and we don't yell in this house. We don't mooch either, but here we are. Her lips tightened. He's going through a hard time. Maybe show a little compassion. I work 10 hours a day and come home to find my stuff eaten, moved, trashed. What part of that is compassion? She looked hurt, But I wasn't playing that game. That night, Dad cornered me while I was watching YouTube in the garage. Son, I've been going over the household expenses. Here we go. Water, power, food. It's all going up, he said. We might need to adjust your rent to help cover it. Let me guess, I said. Unless I start watching Daisy and doing my part, right? He didn't say yes, but he didn't deny it either. I stood up. So now I've got to pay extra because Rick won't? It's about fairness. No, it's about control. You're squeezing me until I give in. His jaw tightened. That's not what this is. I brushed past him. You keep telling yourself that. Back in my room, I sat on my bed and looked around. My space, the one thing I had left, wasn't even safe anymore. The walls felt smaller, the air heavier. They weren't asking anymore. They were cornering me, piece by piece, day by day. So I pulled out my phone and texted Jake from work. You still need a roommate? His reply came fast. Hell yes. You down? I stared at the screen. Then I typed back. I'm getting there. Jake's message was still sitting on my phone the next day when I got home from work. I hadn't responded yet. I wanted to be smart about it, calculated, not just pissed and reactive. But they made that real hard. I walked in, and Dad was waiting in the kitchen with his laptop open on the table and a spreadsheet pulled up. He motioned for me to sit like it was some kind of performance review. I've been going over the numbers, he said. With the increased costs, utilities, groceries, all that, we're falling behind. I didn't say anything, just stared at the screen. There were color-coded cells and a bunch of numbers I knew were padded. He went on. With Rick and Daisy here, the load's heavier. Your mom and I can't carry it alone. So what's this? You raising my rent again? He gave this tight little smile. We're just asking everyone to contribute fairly. I am contributing fairly. I snapped. I pay rent. I pay for my own food. I help with house stuff. I don't sit around all day watching cartoons. His face stiffened. That's not helpful. What's not helpful? I shot back. Is you using fake math to guilt trip me into being a free babysitter? No one said that. You don't have to. You're pushing me into a corner and hoping I cave. Same thing. He shut the laptop a little too hard. If you don't want to be part of this household, maybe it's time to rethink your place in it. I stood up. Maybe I already am. We stared each other down. I could feel my jaw tighten, heart pounding. He didn't back off. Neither did I. I walked out, went straight to my room, and locked the door. Sat at my desk, opened a notebook, and started running numbers. Rent, gas, groceries, insurance, tools. I went line by line, cutting where I could. No takeout, no beer, no new gear for a while. If I lived lean, I could swing it. Barely, but I'd make it work. Then I picked up my phone and texted Jake again. Still looking for a roommate? He replied within 10 seconds. Yup, place is ready. You want it? Yeah, I want it. My hands were still shaking when I set the phone down. Not scared, more like charged. Like someone had just taken the boot off my neck and I was standing up straight for the first time in months. I stayed up late that night, Googling moving companies, scanning Craigslist for cheap used furniture, checking my savings account over and over like the numbers might change if I stared hard enough. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. The house was too quiet, too polite. That kind of calm meant pressure was coming, and I needed time to get ahead of it. The next morning, I left early, took the long way to work, and swung by Jake's place on my lunch break to see it in person. It wasn't much, just a 2-bedroom duplex with beige carpet and a busted screen door, but it was clean, quiet, and best of all, it didn't have them in it. Jake handed me the key like it was already mine. You move when you're ready, he said. No rush. I nodded, pocketed it, and walked out like I was just looking, but in my head, I was already gone. I spent the next few days packing slow and quiet. Just the essentials: clothes, tools, paperwork, my laptop, a few things from the garage I knew Rick had his eyes on. I kept everything in flattened boxes under my bed and stuffed a few packed ones in the trunk of my car when no one was watching. Every time I walked into my room, I took a photo, full documentation, closet, drawers, even the outlet covers. I wasn't leaving a single window open for them to spin some story later about me stealing or trashing anything. I wrote out a formal 30-day notice, printed it, signed it, folded it clean, and slid it under their bedroom door at 6 in the morning before leaving for work. I didn't want to be there when it hit. The second I walked in that night, I knew it landed. Mom was waiting in the living room with red eyes and tissues. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, like I'd come home covered in blood. Rick was on the couch, acting like he hadn't even noticed. Mom stood up. You're moving out? I gave you 30 days, I said calmly. Plenty of notice. We had no idea. You didn't say anything. You just blindsided us. I didn't think a heads up would have changed anything except how fast the guilt started. Dad stepped in. You're making a mistake. Walking away from your family like this over a little responsibility. It's not a little, I said. It's constant, and it's not mine. Mom's voice cracked. How can you be so cold? This is your niece. I didn't have a kid, Mom. Rick did. He's the dad. Not me. Rick finally chimed in without even looking up. Whatever, man. Do what you want. That did it. Mom spun toward him like she was going to smack him, but turned back to me instead. You can't just walk away. After everything we've done for you. You mean letting me pay rent while babysitting for free and living in a damn war zone of toys and bottles? Yeah, thanks. Dad raised his voice. That's enough. No. I snapped. This is enough. I'm not staying here while you all treat me like a backup parent with a paycheck. Mom was sobbing now. We are trying to keep this family together. Why can't you just help instead of running? Because you're not asking for help. You're demanding sacrifice. And only from me. They stood there frozen like they didn't even recognize me anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't storm off this time. I just turned and walked to my room, shut the door, and started making a checklist. I got up before the sun, tossed on some old jeans and a hoodie, and started loading the last of my boxes into the trunk. I moved quiet, careful, like I was sneaking out of a place I'd broken into instead of the house I'd helped maintain for 3 years. Jake was supposed to swing by around 7 to help me haul the bigger stuff. I figured I could be halfway packed before anyone even noticed. Of course, that was wishful thinking. Halfway through carrying my amp and toolbox out to the driveway, I turned around and saw Dad standing in the kitchen doorway, barefoot, holding a mug, just watching me like I was stealing the silverware. You weren't going to say goodbye? I kept walking. Didn't think it'd be a warm send-off. He followed me outside. You really going through with this? I already did, I said, popping the trunk. He sighed and rubbed his face. We could have figured something out. You didn't have to blow it all up. I didn't blow anything up, I said. You just didn't want to believe I had a breaking point. He stepped closer, voice low. You're abandoning your family. Your mother's heart is broken. And Rick will be fine. I cut in. He's been coasting on everyone else's effort his whole life. Dad's jaw tightened. That's your brother. Yeah. And this is my life. I'm not giving it up just so you two can play house with a grown man and a toddler. He dropped the guilt, switched to threats. You walk out like this. Don't expect to come back here when things fall apart. Got it. Don't expect help. Never asked for any. Right then, the front door creaked open, and Mom came out in her robe, mascara smudged, face already red. You're really doing this? Just leaving? Walking out like we're nothing? I gave you notice. I paid my rent. I followed your rules. And then you changed them. She stepped toward me, hands clenched. How can you do this to Rick? To Daisy? She looks for you when you're not here. I swallowed that one. Hard. I'm not her dad, I said. And Rick stopped being my responsibility the second he turned 18. Speak of the devil. Rick came stumbling out behind them, shirtless, hair a mess, holding a juice box. He looked at the boxes in my car, then at me. Wow. Guess not everyone sticks around when things get tough. I locked eyes with him. Guess not everyone signs up to raise your kid for you, either. He smirked and walked back inside. Jake's truck pulled up right then. He hopped out, tossed me a head nod, and started loading the back without saying a word. Professional. Efficient. Like we'd done this before. I turned to my parents. Thanks for everything. Really. But I'm out. Dad didn't speak. Mom wiped her eyes, but didn't move. I climbed into the passenger seat. Jake shut the tailgate, got in, and pulled off. The second we turned out of the neighborhood, it hit me. This weight I'd been carrying for months just peeled off. I could breathe again. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't surviving someone else's mess. I was finally living my own damn life. We barely made it to Jake's driveway before my phone started buzzing. At first, I ignored it, figured it was just noise. But then it kept going and going. By the time I finished unloading, I had 13 missed calls, 9 voicemails, and more texts than I cared to count. All family, all drama. You broke your mother's heart. After all they've done for you. So selfish. What about Daisy? I didn't respond, just swiped and cleared the screen. Then came the social media circus. My aunt posted a quote about honoring your parents with a not-so-subtle caption. Some people should remember where they came from. My cousin Sarah commented with 3 clapping hands and a preach. Rick, of course, went full victim. Posted a selfie of him and Daisy with a long, passive-aggressive caption. Some people say they're family, but bail when you need them most. Fake brothers are worse than enemies. That one got likes. Lots of them. Comments too. I blocked them all. The next morning at the shop, I was elbow deep in a busted Civic when I heard the front door slam open. At first, I thought it was a customer throwing a fit, but then I heard my name. Brian, I need to talk to you. I popped up from under the hood, turned, and there she was. Mom, in full meltdown, eyes swollen, hair a mess, holding a stack of papers and crying like someone had died. I don't know what we did to deserve this, she sobbed, walking straight toward me. How could you walk out like that? How could you just leave your family? The whole shop froze. Tools clinked to a stop. One of the new techs stared with his mouth open. I felt the heat rise up my neck. My boss, Paul, came out from the back office. Ma'am, this is a business, he said, stepping between us. You need to leave. She tried to move around him. I just need 2 minutes with my son. No, Paul said, firm. You don't. This is his workplace. You're not welcome here like this. She looked at me like I'd stabbed her. I gave you everything, and this is what you do? Let strangers humiliate me. I didn't ask you to come here, I said flatly. She shook her head, turned, and stormed out. The door slammed behind her so hard it rattled the glass. I stood there, every eye in the shop on me. No one said a word. Paul waited a second, then turned to me. You good? I nodded. Yeah. You want a minute? I shook my head. I'm fine. He gave me a look, just enough to let me know I wasn't in trouble, then went back to his office. I wiped my hands on a rag, ducked back under the Civic, and went back to work like nothing happened. Because honestly, that was the line, and they crossed it. It hit me on a random Tuesday morning. I'd left my passport in a folder with insurance papers in the bottom drawer of my old desk. I cursed under my breath and texted Jake. You down for a quick recovery mission? 10 minutes later, we picked up our buddy Dave and headed over. I didn't trust walking in alone, not with the way things had ended. When we pulled up, Rick's car was in the driveway, the same one he'd claimed was undrivable for job interviews. I knocked, waited, and didn't bother smiling when Dad opened the door. He looked at Jake and Dave, then back at me. What's this? I came for my paperwork, I said. Shouldn't take long. He stepped aside, but didn't look happy about it. Your room's already been reassigned. No kidding. I walked in and almost didn't recognize the place. Rick's crap was everywhere. Torn up Amazon boxes, half-built shelving units, 2 tubs of baby clothes. My desk had a stack of diapers on top of it and a dried-out bottle underneath. Rick walked in behind me, arms crossed. Didn't know you were coming. Didn't think I needed to announce myself for my own stuff. He raised his eyebrows. Yeah, thing is, I'm not really sure what's yours anymore. It's been kind of a shared space. I opened the drawer, and sure enough, the folder was gone. I turned to face him. Where's the black folder that was in here? He shrugged. No idea. Maybe Mom moved it. Cool, I said, pulling out my phone. Here's a picture of this drawer from the day I packed. Folder was right here, labeled, time-stamped. Jake and Dave watched silently while I started pulling my things out. Notebooks, a small Bluetooth speaker, a hard drive. Everything had a spot in the photo. Rick muttered, "You're being real aggressive for someone taking from a struggling father." I looked him dead in the eye. I'm taking my stuff. You're just pissed the gravy train dried up. That's when Dad stepped in again. If you keep digging through things that aren't clearly marked, I'm calling the police. I straightened up. Go ahead. I've got photos, receipts, serial numbers. You want to explain to the cops why you're threatening your paying tenant for getting his own property back? His mouth tightened, but he didn't say anything. I opened the closet and pulled out a duffel bag I'd forgotten was even there. Rick made a show of looking concerned, like I was robbing him. Daisy's toys were in there, he said. Not my problem. He leaned on the doorframe, voice all wounded. You used to be better than this. Yeah, I said, and then I woke up. I zipped the bag, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out past both of them without another word. Jake and Dave followed me. No questions asked. I didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't thank them for letting me in. That house wasn't home anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. 6 months out, and I still felt that weight stay gone. Living with Jake was easy. No drama, no guilt trips, no passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. We split rent, cooked our own food, kept to ourselves. The place was quiet, clean, mine. Most nights, I came home from the shop, cracked a cold one, and actually relaxed, something I didn't realize I hadn't done in years. Rick still wasn't working. That got back to me through a cousin who actually gets it. He said my parents were still picking up the slack, watching Daisy full-time, paying for everything while Rick job hunted from the couch. Same old routine. They tried to pull me back in. First, it was a photo of Daisy in a Halloween costume, text from Mom, "She misses you." Then a message from Aunt Linda, "You don't have to cut everyone off just because you're upset. Think of the baby." I didn't reply. I didn't even open the ones after that. It was always the same formula. Use the kid as bait, then guilt trip me into fixing problems I didn't cause. They never apologized, never admitted they screwed up, just expected me to fold again. But I didn't, because I finally understood the difference between helping and being used. Helping family means support, not servitude. Respect, not obligation. What they pulled wasn't love. It was manipulation. Jake saw the text once and said, "You ever think about responding?" Nope. Good. A few relatives reached out quietly, told me I did the right thing. Said Rick was still playing the victim, milking the single dad angle while doing the bare minimum. I appreciated the honesty, but I didn't need the updates. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I just didn't care. If they ever reach a point where they treat me like a grown man instead of a live-in babysitter, maybe I'll answer the next call. But until then, I'm good. What would you have done in my place? Stayed and helped, or walked out too? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real stories like this one.